Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence figuring things out, welcome back to another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Arcaicskidz. I'm, of course, your host, Arcaicskidz, and boy, am I excited about this guest. Peter Quinones, what's up, my brother?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm so good. I'm so excited about having you on.
Let's do this.
Been chasing this guy for months, so I hope you all enjoy it. Let's jump into it, man. Tell people who you are and where they can find you, because that's very important. Everyone seems to hate you on Twitter. By that I mean Twitter hates you.
By design. Yeah. So libertarianinstitute.org/Pete. The Free Man Beyond the Wall podcast, that's my baby. That's where it all started for me. And if you go to Amazon Prime and you look up a little documentary called The Monopoly on Violence, which is an hour and 45 minutes, convincing the world that the state is the biggest criminal on the planet, and that get rid of it would probably be a good idea, or at least get it down really small to where you can shoot it,
like almost microscopic.
Yeah, so that you just step on it if it starts getting out of hand. And I have a Substack. It's pquinones.substack.com. It's called By Any Memes Necessary. Borrow that from Mr. X, and so people seem to like that a lot too.
Right on, man. I've got the Libertarian Institute /Pete down in the description. It's also running on the banner. I've also got Pete's Twitter. You guys should follow him there. He's less spicy than he used to be because Twitter hates him, but he does eviscerate people, and it's hilarious. So you guys definitely want to check that out. Let's jump into just a piece of history. You were in the military.
Nope.
No, you weren't? I thought you were.
Nope.
Was it Scott? Scott Horton was in the military.
Nope.
No? Shit. What the fuck am I thinking then? There's someone.
None of us at the Libertarian Institute, except for Tommy Salmons.
Okay, maybe that's who it was. Like, I was reading through some bios and stuff, and I'm like, one of these motherfuckers. I know they were.
I mean, I was born in an army hospital in Heidelberg, West Germany.
maybe that's what it was. I read. You're yeah, strike two. You got it. You guys are pretty anti-war. And that's like maybe the biggest understatement of ever. What sent you that direction?
Oh, I knew that there was something wrong with the invasion of Iraq in 2003, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I knew there was something wrong with 9/11. Why did this happen? And I had a guy who worked with me who was like, well, it's all this Osama bin Laden guy and everything like that. And I'm like, I don't know. And so for a bunch of years after that, I had no idea what was going on. So I was still interested in politics, still thought it meant something. And so I was watching a debate in 2007 on this dude I had never heard of before. They said he was a congressman from Texas, and he had this, like, I don't trust people who have two first names, so I'm like, who's this Ron Paul guy? Right. And I'm watching, and he says the reason why the terrorists hate us is because we're over there. Mm-hmm. And then he proceeded to get attacked by all the people on the stage that I hated by default. Right. And I was like, and something clicked right at that moment. And I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, if somebody was constantly coming onto my property and telling me what to do, yeah, that would be my enemy too. And after a while, I'd probably do something drastic to make sure that it didn't happen again, or at least to make them pay. And that just took me down a rabbit hole. I think Ron had 3 or 4 books at the time, but the only one that I could find was A Foreign Policy of Freedom. And it was basically House floor speeches. And I just watched those. I read that, and it was just, I mean, I just realized that there was no, and then once you start looking at like the budgets, and then you start looking at like, who's making all the money from it. And I mean, I was just immediately anti-war after that. I was like, there's no reason in the world that they should be there should be any kind of military action unless somebody is invading the homeland.
Right.
And and I didn't even and what do you do on 9/11? Who attacked you? It's like, I mean, it wasn't a country. Well, I mean, Saudi Arabia, 28,
Yeah.
28 pages. But it just didn't make any sense. And and then once Scott Horton, I read Scott Horton's book Fool's Errand, and I mean, I didn't even know at the point that I read Scott's book that they basically let Osama get away and escape into Pakistan, and they didn't chase him down. They didn't kill they didn't kill the 400 people. I mean, I was just like, this is just, it's all a scam. It's all a scam. And that just, and then I discovered antiwar.com, and it was just, I mean, after that, once you start reading, the people who write for antiwar.com, Danny Sherson, who, has quickly become one of my favorite writers, major in the army, was on the boots on the ground for both the Iraq and Afghanistan surge. And I've had him on my podcast several times. He used to teach history at West Point, so I have him on for like history episodes and everything. And you just realize that I just became the most anti-war person out there. There's no reason. I mean, if China invades the homeland, sure, I'm going to pick up a rifle and I'm going to start shooting. It's so funny because
anti-war does not mean anti-self-defense.
Right. And I was being interviewed once, and we were talking about the police, and our next documentary is going to be about the police. And the topic of like the UN like coming in, and like say there was secession movements and states, and the host made the claim that, well, the UN troops might come in, and I'm like, well, that would just be like a target rich environment. We just be picking off blue helmets like from our roof all day. And that made me realize
we'd all become rooftop Koreans.
Yeah. But that also made me realize that I don't recognize the enemy at home, which is the police.
Yeah.
And quote unquote law enforcement, which is what you should really call them, is law enforcement, because whatever law that corrupt politician that they call corrupt passes, they'll enforce.
I think Michael Malice has the best take on that. There is nothing up to and including beating your children in front of you they won't do.
Yeah.
So
if you think there's freedom of speech, talk back to a cop.
Yeah, exactly. So as someone that was boots on the ground personally in both Iraq and Afghanistan, including the invasion of Iraq, there's some fucking problems there. And it didn't take very long in Iraq for a lot of us to go, what the fuck are we doing here? This doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? So I get that 100%. Afghanistan didn't really make a lot of sense either for different reasons. But as far as them allowing the quote unquote enemy to escape, like there's paperwork that backs that shit up, that they did do that, and they did it intentionally. They don't say why in the papers. Anyway, well, you have done some incredible work as far as your documentary you were mentioning earlier. I'm very much looking forward to the new documentary. I think it'll shine a light that people, I don't want to call them neocons, but I think this last year has put, I guess, Republicans in a weird position. They're the thin blue line people are like, what do you mean I can't open my business and shit like that? I don't think they understand the history, and I don't think they've ever really understood who they're dealing with in these situations. So I do look forward to that. To that note, I do want to get your take on the Derek Chauvin thing. I got just hammered on Twitter for not agreeing with the outcome of that particular trial. And I believe you were one of the few people that kind of maybe didn't see it exactly the way I saw it, but also saw it as a problem.
Um, I I saw it as a problem for the drug, how much drugs was in his system, and but I've sort of in the last week I've had a chance to think about that case, and what made me think about it was I thought back to Eric Garner,
Right.
and Eric Garner was basically choked to death by the police, and the excuse that the copsuckers and the bootlickers made was that it wasn't actually the choking, it was the fact that he had a heart, and it makes me
That he was overweight and
yeah, and
yeah.
that gave me pause
Mhm.
because is it always, is it always something about how the person's health or what was in their system, or
Right.
did the police kill these people? And I mean, and I don't know. I don't know that I believe that the prosecution proved cause of death. And I think that if they didn't prove cause of death beyond a reasonable doubt, that doesn't bode well because that sets a precedent for the future.
Mhm.
Um, but I also am of the opinion that if George Floyd had a gun on him and pulled it out and would have killed Chauvin, I'd have been okay with that. I'd also been I'd also been okay with if somebody would have put down the stupid camera and opened fire on Chauvin and the other officers. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I don't. Sorry, I'm not.
I have no love. There's no love lost that Chauvin gets to rot in a hole for me. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, he belonged there beforehand. But to that, I want to go to that. What in the hell happened to society where they can watch a man die in front of them and no one intervenes? I mean, I understand, okay, these guys have guns or whatever, but there are dozens of you, there are four of them. Where is your spine? You know what I mean?
I mean,
I don't
in
care
my
if they're wearing chest jewelry or not. Don't let people kill people in front of you if do something about this. What happened to America where we became a bunch of pussies?
so that whole 8 minutes and 46 seconds starts, and what what could have happened was after 2 minutes somebody could have run up to a roof, grabbed a rifle, and started shooting. I mean, they had the time to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of could have been done, but
It's not an endorsement to do that, but there are a lot of ways they could have intervened.
yeah, in Minecraft.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they could have. I mean, they could have just swarm tackled them. They didn't have
Yeah.
to pull a gun. They could have swarm tackled them to stop it and everything. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know if George Floyd would have died anyway. I know that there are people making arguments that that really wasn't a lot of fentanyl in the system. Well, I mean, I've seen the toxicology
I
report.
saw the report. There was a
Yeah, I saw
lot.
the toxicology report. That's insane. And anybody
Yeah.
who knows how people die from fentanyl overdoses, it stops their heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And he had more than enough to do that.
yeah, I mean, you're
I'm
basically
with you on
you're
that.
talking about two scumbags.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
talking about George Floyd was a scumbag, pick better
yeah,
martyrs, and Derek Chauvin was a scumbag.
yeah.
I mean,
Pick better cops.
yeah.
One of the things that really upset me about that situation, and it really has nothing to do with Chauvin going to prison, or, in all honesty, that piece of shit dying. Like, and I'm going to call him what he was. Uh, but one of the things that really upset me is that for a brief moment in time, we had, it seemed like the majority of the nation around the same idea that this shit is not acceptable and we have to deal with it. Unfortunately, it got turned into a damn race baiting game and a nightmare situation that we we lost that opportunity, and that's very disconcerting to me. I don't know how people are so easily manipulated.
All throughout the 60s, the anti-war movement was infiltrated by feds.
Mm.
And I forget who told the story. It was like it got to the point where there were so many feds, like on the second Friday, on 2 Fridays a month, no one would show up because they were all collecting their paychecks.
Yeah.
And I mean, uh, there's no way you're going to tell me that this quote unquote movement hasn't been infiltrated.
Oh,
I mean,
there's no chance in hell that hasn't happened.
I mean, you saw, and it's always white faces. You know,
Yeah.
when like the AutoZone. You remember
Mhm.
that happened?
Yeah.
I think it happened the first night in Minneapolis. The AutoZone, that was a white guy. I mean, that probably. I remember somebody went to Twitter and said, "Yeah, that's my ex-boyfriend," and he's a cop. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, who the hell
Yeah, where
knows?
was it? Like in Seattle or something, the World Trade Organization,
Oh
where
God,
they
yeah,
when that happened, and that was like they proved that was all a bunch of feds,
yeah.
cops and doing that. So you think they've been hijacked in a way by these people to cause this damage and sow this discontent? You think that's what's going on?
Why would they allow like a real movement? Why would they allow? I mean, you had conservatives that first day, being like, "Man, this is just wrong," and
You
everything. And
had
then,
Sean Hannity
yeah,
saying like this is unacceptable behavior, which
I mean, so I'm sure you may have even have got that out of Bill O'Reilly if he was still on the air, and who knows? I mean, that guy was the biggest bootlicker ever on TV. But and then all they have to do is you just throw somebody out there, and you're watching public opinion go like this when it comes to the police, when it comes to the state. And all you got to
Mm,
do is throw a couple people out there, a couple of people in masks who you can't tell who they are, who work for the state, and then you destroy some private property, beat somebody up,
mm,
and then all of a sudden you start seeing it go back in the other direction. And
yeah,
I mean, they can't allow people to come together. They can't allow people they can't allow the one group that is going to vote for always votes for this side, and the one group that always votes for this side to come together on and have like a common enemy. Because
right.
if that happens, they lose their grip.
Well, I actually just had a guest yesterday, and we were discussing the French Revolution and the Bolshevik, and it's like one thing that happened in both those situations is the people on opposite sides came together. Now, it didn't end that well, for anyone really towards the end there, but I think one of the things that she had stated is that the U.S. government has seen this happen when both sides come together. It's never good for the powers to be.
No?
So of course it would make sense they would do everything in their power to disrupt that particular situation.
Yeah.
Um, so you're working on a documentary about policing in America. Is that I know you can't give away too much, obviously, but is that just like, is it more history based about policing, or is it like about I mean, let's just call it what it is, a spade's a spade, the police state that we live under now?
It's going to be all of it. I mean, we have to tell the history of policing, and she said that before. It's so
Yeah.
funny. We have to tell the history, so there's
Yeah.
going to be history in there, and you got to bring it up through prohibition. You got to talk about the war on drugs. I've said, and this is our first documentary. It was an anarchist documentary. I mean,
Mhm.
we had we had Judge Napolitano in there, and we put
Yeah.
his name is listed as Andrew Napolitano on purpose because, and no one has a PhD or a doctor in front of their name because it's an anarchist documentary.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
So
so
no state anything.
yeah. So, but this is not good. I mean, we're going to present the libertarian solution for this, but this cannot be an anarchist libertarian documentary. This
Right.
has to present solutions in the real world. And Yeah, I mean, I've written the first article I ever wrote for the Libertarian Institute was um, about 3 incidents that had happened over a week that just absolutely turned my stomach with police. And I gave my solutions to how to fix policing now
Mhm.
while it's still a monopoly.
Right.
And one thing that I found is the more, I want to take power away from the police. I want to take away their power to ticket, their power to roam the streets. As far as I'm concerned, they should be like fire department. They should only come when called. They shouldn't be
Yes.
out,
No one
fire.
has a song that says "fuck the fire department,"
Yeah,
and it's a pretty good tweet.
yeah. And so when you look at like taking power away from the police, okay, so like I've said before, you give the roads, you let Best Buy take over a road, like a
Mhm.
highway, and it becomes Best Buy highway, and now they police it. And what's the best way to police it? Okay, have cameras, have speed things, and somebody's going too fast on your road because Best Buy makes the speed limit.
Mhm.
Someone's going too fast and you ding their insurance company. You don't even have to stop them. You
Right.
just ding their insurance company. The insurance company is going to ask for proof. You present the proof. The insurance company pays the bill and then raises their premiums.
Yep.
I mean, that's an easy way, non-violent. There's no violence. There's no coercion there whatsoever. If the person doesn't like their insurance company raising their premiums, they can find another insurance company.
Right.
It's very simple. What I found out was the more power you take away from the police, the closer to anarchy you get.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
I mean, if police aren't out there to protect, yeah, I mean, the police show up to stop a crime less than 5% of the time. So the idea that police are there to protect you is just stupid. I mean, it's
It's a
just
joke.
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You're just, yeah, it's like, and you can see this on gun forums. Before I discovered Twitter, I mean, I was on like the largest gun forum in Georgia, and it's like one of the largest gun forums in the country. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of there's a lot of cops on there because
Cops
cops
like
are gun
guns.
vets, and there's a lot of cop suckers on there. So you something would happen, and you'd be so. Here's the message: cops will tell you get a gun, learn how to use it, because when seconds count, police are minutes away.
Right.
You have to take your own safety into your own hands.
Mhm.
And you're like, wow, this is a cop telling me this. This is amazing.
Mhm.
I mean, he's being so genuine, so honest. And then you you make a post about how, well, maybe we don't need the police if we're going to take it into. Well, if you get in trouble, call a crackhead. All right, so I'm on a gun forum where the message is get
Protect
armed,
yourself.
learn how to protect yourself, because I won't be there. And I'm always like, if you have to compare yourself to a crackhead
Yeah.
in order to look good, I don't know, man. You might want to quit that job. That might be a bad profession for you to be in.
For sure, man. That's not making you look very good there. I've never been I've never been a fan of cops because the first real interaction I had with the cop was getting a what is it when you're out after or curfew violation, right?
Yeah,
13 years old. We're in the street in front of my house. And this guy gives like all of us a curfew violation. We have to go to court. My mom's one of these, at the time, one of these bootlickers, and says, "Well, you did do it. Just say you did it, whatever." And then I had to go pull weeds at the local school or whatever for like 5 hours or some bullshit. I'm like, "What the fuck? This is just slavery. This doesn't like I wasn't. It's not like we were out busting windows or doing anything. You know what I mean? We were playing tag, ran out in the street, and this cop was like, "Yep, gotcha." So not a fan. Never have been. One of the things that I have noticed of recently is that cops are becoming really fucking whiny. Like, you know. So
Yeah, you get to see these memes where it's like, I saw a cartoon where it was like the uniform was like on a chair, and there's a cop walking away, and it's like, well, I just can't do this anymore. It's like, good, do that in
yeah,
mass.
yeah.
Do that, walk away in mass.
I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Pool, but this dude has been like, first of all, in the last year, he went just hardcore Second Amendment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and then also now he's like, all these cops need to quit. Like, they don't want you there. Just quit. Just leave. Like, go do other shit. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, he's not wrong. Like, but he keeps making a mistake of saying all the good cops are quitting, and I'm like, there are no good cops. That's
Yeah.
not real. Like, that's made up. That's in your head. It's not true. I recently yesterday, and Stacy got a huge kick out of this. That I said I have pigs, so I raise pigs and chickens and stuff like that. And two of my pigs got in a just all out brawl. And I don't know what you know about hogs, but these things are 350 pounds and they could flip a goddamn dump truck if they wanted to, you know. But they get in this brawl, and I, for whatever reason, in my head, what went through my head is, oh, this must be like the good cop, bad cop argument. Like,
So funny.
and I had someone go, well, did you try to stop them? And I'm like, are you fucking high? They'll eat me.
Yeah, really.
If I stop them, it's going to be with a gun. Like, um, anyway, that's just my own weird brain, the way it works. So, so when did you join the Libertarian Institute? Like, when did you guys put that together, or did you join that after?
I started writing for them 2017. It was a couple months after Will Grigg, the original managing editor, died, and sorely missed. I mean, he is. You know what's funny? He was probably the best writer on the police, and I know he was probably the best writer on the police I've ever. I mean, he had the best phrases, like called them tax feeders. One time he referred to them as a donut furnace. I mean, he's just, I mean, the guy, they called him Thesaurus Rex because you read his articles and you have to read it with a dictionary because you're just like,
you don't know what this shit means.
I don't know what this word means and everything. And he wasn't doing it to like sound smart. It was just who he was.
He's just smart.
Yeah. And what's funny is I've written a lot on the police over the years. I've done a bunch of podcasts on the police and everything like that. And I don't want people to go to Will Grigg's section on the Libertarian Institute to see how much I stole from him. Nice. and I've talked to people who knew him and who were close to him, and they said, oh, he would consider it an honor. He would consider it an honor. But so like 2017, a few months after Will died, I started writing for them, and then in 2019, was it 2009? Yeah, yes, 2019. I was at Mises University shooting interviews for the Monopoly on Violence. And Scott contacted me and asked if I wanted to be managing editor. And,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, immediately, I'm like, okay, how much does it pay? You know, first question you ask. And then after that, it was just, it's great. You know, I've written tons of articles for them.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of time to write articles, but it does look like pretty soon I'll be able to do this full time, and then I'll start doing like at least a weekly feature article for them, concentrating on libertarianism, because most of what I write now is for my Substack, and it's just basically, when I get pissed, it's just me ranting and
nice.
down, just spewing my venom to the world. People really seem to like it. So I think people.
One of the things I ran into is that the audience is a lot different. Your reading audience and your visual audience is a lot different, or your listening audience. Some people, you couldn't get them to read if you fucking threatened them at gunpoint. They're like, eh. Like, and I don't understand what happened. I love to read. I'm an avid reader. Going back to your previous statement, when I read 12 Rules for Life from Jordan Peterson, I'm like sitting there on DuckDuckGo, like, what the fuck does this word mean? I don't even know what this is. Like, that was very irritating. I sent him an email about that. Like, if you read another book, why don't you realize not everyone's as smart as you? I've read a couple of your articles. I like the fact that you dumb things down sometimes for people. I appreciate that about you.
Or maybe I'm just dumb.
Well, no, because they're very intellectually and intelligent driven articles. It's just you don't use words that people go, well, I'll just skip that and hope it's not important. So
my favorite thing to do is to sneak in biblical references.
It's because you want to piss off the atheists?
No, it's just I love some of the biblical references are amazing. I remember writing that something about how they will follow the law to every jot and tittle. And,
yes.
and somebody was like, I had to look that up. I had no idea what it was.
Yeah. Have you ever read what is it? The poets or the biblical poets? Have you ever read that? No. It's a like short little, I think it's like 22 pages, but they take all these different verses of the Bible, Old and New Testament, and they stuck them together in these weird ways where it like tells the entire story in like 22 pages.
Oh, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I have it in on my bookshelf. I thought it was very interesting. I think I paid like $1 for it. I don't remember, but interesting. Yeah. I think it's funny that you do that. I like to screw with people. One of my favorite things about like Michael Malice is when the way that he will present a tweet sometimes just to infuriate both sides and get them all riled up. I always find that entertaining because that's all Twitter's really for, is to meet interesting people like yourself and or just irritate other people. Sure. That's its entire job.
I'm really good at both of those, meeting people and irritating people.
Nice. All right. So you obviously, I'm sure, have really enjoyed all this COVID nonsense since March of last year. I've listened to several of your podcasts where you were obviously a big fan of what government was doing. So why don't you? Let's start with if Pete's in charge of the country and this COVID thing's coming, how does Pete handle that?
Get on TV and go, hey, there's this thing, there's this flu-like virus that's out there. Best we can tell, it's killing people who are infirmed, who are older, or who have multiple comorbidities. If you think that it might be something that would affect you, please stay home, do whatever you need to do in order to do it. Everybody else, get on with your life.
Nice. That's the right answer, in my opinion. Now let's talk COVID passports. I'm sure you're a big fan.
Stacy and I recorded with Del Bigtree today, and we were talking about some COVID passports, and man, it's what most people don't realize is it's just not a new concept. I mean, they've been trying to get vaccine passports for a decade now. They want those, and I'm sure Europe is just chomping at the bit to.
Well, Europe's actually, multiple countries are starting to actually say, yes, you can't come here without one, and I don't care. I keep saying this. I don't know why people, don't understand. But if you want to get one, whatever, man. Like, I don't care. I don't think you should be forcing other people to do it because that doesn't make sense. Not to mention, if it's so great, why do you have to market it so much? That's baffling to me.
That goes for the vaccine too. But
well, that's what I mean is the vaccine is they have to market the crap out of this thing, and I'm like,
Well, here's the thing about the vaccine passports and the COVID passports and all of this. these people know. They are well aware of the numbers on this. That's 99. If you get it, you're going to recover 99 points. So if you know that they know, why are they doing this? And there's only one reason to do it, and it is to control the population. It is for control. And the people who, I mean, I know libertarians who don't get that, who they don't get it because, you know, they still have this. I don't know how you can be a libertarian and still have this idea that, like, you trust the state for anything.
Well, and based on that, I wanted to ask you, because there were some state parties that came out, and, you know, we're not going to name them because I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but they were going, well, if it's a private company doing it. And I'm like, they're not private company. Airlines are not private companies. I don't care what anyone says. They're not. Every time one of those bastards gets in trouble, what do? They go run to the gov, and the gov prints a bunch of money and hands it over to them. That's not private, in my opinion. I can't go run to the government and go, man, I messed up on my business. Cut me a check. That shit doesn't work, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the vaccine manufacturers have immunity.
Yeah.
They have federal
Can't
immunity.
sue them.
Yeah. You have to sue the government. And where does
good luck?
Well, I mean, no, people win. I mean, the vaccine court pays. I mean, they pay to shut people up. But where does that money come from?
Me.
Yeah. So it's like, I mean, why would manufacturers of a product? I mean, could you imagine if, like, Campbell's Soup lobbied the government to be like, okay, if anybody ever gets poisoned by our product,
you'll pay the bill.
We need immunity from that.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the hell? What? No, this doesn't make any sense at all. So, I mean, why would you allow any, especially a product that they want to put in every body on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took a picture of it. I was on Yahoo the other day, and yeah, I still use my main personal email is Yahoo. You guys can kiss my ass, right? But it was this picture. It was a UNICEF one, and it said and it has a picture of a friggin' like 1.5-year-old with a mask on getting a shot, and it says, "We won't stop until the world is vaccinated." I mean,
that is absolutely insane to me. That's just,
I mean, we've gone beyond sanity.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not most of the people. I think most of the people are just going on to get along. And that pisses me off even worse than the ones that consider this to be a religion. But I mean, the people who consider this to be a religion, I mean, those people got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, those people got to go. I mean, they are.
However that needs to happen, it needs to happen, because these people are scary as hell.
Oh yeah, the people getting dressed in like gowns and ball gowns to go get a shot. Everything. I mean, it's mental illness is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's mental illness. It's over socialization, to use a Ted Kaczynski. One of my, I won't call him one of my heroes, but definitely somebody whose writings have inspired me a lot. And he says over socialization. What he means by socialization is people, their attitude towards the government. So if their love of the government, their need for the government, and he talks about at the beginning of his manifesto is just this scathing rebuke of the left, and he talks about how they're just over socialized.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and it's gotten to the point now where I mean, I don't think the right's not far behind. So
not at all. All you have to do is look at the Trump craze. Yeah. They're right there. I mean, that shit was it was religious adjacent. It wasn't. It wasn't far, and it would have been.
QAnon was a religion.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that wasn't the majority of them.
It wasn't the majority, but damn, there was a lot of them.
There was some stuff in there. I remember looking at Twitter like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Man, it was, and you would just, I mean, there are people who still there are people who will tell you with a straight face that Trump is the secret president.
Yes, and those people belong in padded rooms.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And I had a good tweet from my from my anonymous account when my main account was suspended for 4 months, from my anonymous account, where I said, maybe the fact that there's still kids in cages on the border is proof that Trump is the secret president.
That's fantastic. And a good segue. Let's talk about that fucking nightmare. Because I'm sorry, that is a humanitarian disaster taking place at the border right now. And I don't have all the right answers. I feel like I could solve that problem a lot better than Biden. But I mean, I want to get your thoughts on that, because that's one of the things that I look at that, and I look at the way the media covers it, and I'm like, you people are fucking sick.
Well, I mean, to me, there's been this great debate in libertarianism forever: is open borders versus versus closed borders. I take a padded room for a while. Yeah, no kidding.
Me too.
But there's a so there's this debate, and to me, it's not a debate. The only libertarian position on borders is that they're private. That that all land is owned.
That if I own that property, that's mine, and I decide who crosses it.
Yeah, and anyone who if someone comes on it without being invited, you can shoot them if you want.
I also don't think the government should own property.
Yeah,
other than Washington D.C. So
well, they can't. Yeah, they can't, and they legally can't. But I mean,
that's what I'm saying is I should be able to buy the border.
Yeah. So, I mean, this all goes back to the secret wars in Central America, the drug war. I mean, they devastated that part of the country, that part of the world, right at the southern border, to the point where people are willing to do anything to escape where they're from.
Yes.
And they want to come here. And
except according to Kamala, it's climate change. But okay, continue with actual history.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the CIA was importing cocaine into the
United States. That never happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a conspiracy theory. I mean, when it comes to the border, I mean, Ryan McMakin and I did an episode on it. I think it was at Mises University 2019, the same week I was doing all the interviews. And we talked about what is the best way to solve the problem at the border, and the easiest way to solve the border is, well, yeah, that. But I mean, in lieu of having a libertarian border,
right,
a private property border, is Ellis Island kind of thing, where and you have to change the laws so you can't get welfare, you can't get anything unless you have a certain card or a certain kind of ID.
Right.
And the people coming across the border, if they're coming to work, work sponsored visas where companies would sponsor them, things like that. And I've also talked to Josh Childress, who was a former Border Patrol agent, and he quit because he thought that he was doing more harm, far more harm than good. And he said, I've stopped these people coming over the border, and most of them are just going to change tires in Arizona, things like that. So just make it so that it can be official. I mean, if you're and I know, because I'm an anarchist, I'm not allowed to have that opinion. I'm not allowed to have a statist opinion or a statist solution to anything, because it's impure. But while the state exists, you have to figure out a way to handle this issue. So quit. I mean, and I think that just eliminating the war on drugs altogether would solve a lot of that problem, because I mean, a lot of those people are escaping these frigging cartels. And I mean, and
one of the things that I heard was from, I believe it was the Honduras president at one point. He said that if America ordered 1% of their coffee from Honduras, they could stop the migration out of Honduras. They'd have jobs for everyone. just 1% is what he had said. And that's coffee.
Well, I mean, Obama destroyed Honduras with his policy in 2009. When my dad was still alive, he did missionary work in Honduras, and he said it was horrifying, and it was just horrifying the things that how people live down there and everything. And he's not, because he was a Christian, and because Christians in this country have to worship the state, he couldn't see that it was the state that was causing all of these problems. So
right,
try to explain that to him, but a son trying to explain anything to a father, that's good luck.
That was problematic. I ran into that when my father wanted to vote for John McCain, and I'm like, please don't. He's a terrible human being. I hope he's enjoying hell. So yeah, the border thing that one that the libertarians run into a lot, because it seems to be like you're either open borders or you're a statist, and I'm like, that's not true. Like, that's not how this works. I'm a big fan of the border should be privately owned. You give me 5 pesos, maybe I let you in. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I mean, the easiest thing to
but stop the war on drugs. You stop a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, so what should the border policy be? Well, I mean, as long as a state exists, shouldn't that be the state making that decision? I mean, why do libertarians have to? Why do libertarians feel like they have to have an answer for that? It's like the state exists. The only libertarian solution to the borders is to privatize them. I actually wrote a Substack about that, where it's like the only libertarian solution on the borders is to privatize it. Any other opinion is statist. Saying the border should be open, that's a statist opinion. Sorry, libertarians. Saying they should be closed, that's a statist opinion. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe you just leave it up to the frigging country, the government, who's in charge to do it. Problem is a government that's doing it right now. It's just one of those political footballs where you're just like, having a border crisis like that, like you had under Trump, everything that was going on under Trump, makes it look bad for Republicans. But then you bring up that it was worse under Obama, and that's whataboutism.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I can't stand any president. I can make an argument for every president going back to even Carter. I would say maybe not Ford, but starting Carter coming forward, I can make an argument for every president being charged with war crimes and being hung at The Hague.
Easily. Yes.
Yeah.
And the only reason Ford really escapes it is because he was president for 19 months or some nonsense.
Well, and he was always falling down.
Yes. I mean, he never really got good at falling up like Joe Biden, but
Yeah, how does Joe do that? I mean, does he fly?
He's a special breed of politician, Joe Biden is. I'm gonna give him that. And and speaking of, I guess we'll move that direction right quick. Old and Chief is well, he said something I finally agreed with. He said that if you make less than $400,000 a year, you don't have to pay taxes. And I was like, all right, man, I'm going to take you at your word. That's not going to help me, but it might help some of y'all. So what do you think? You think anyone can put their hands together and just be like, oh, well, I mean, that's what he said, man.
It's just hyperbole. I mean, he's just.
He said it because he doesn't know where the hell he's at.
I mean, it's just a perfect kind of left populist kind of thing to say. It's just, I mean, basically because what it's doing is it puts the target on quote unquote rich, not on the quote unquote rich. I mean,
yes.
I don't know that. Honestly, I don't know if you're making $400,000 a year and you have a bunch of kids and you have a house and everything. I mean, I know that 400,000 makes you rich, you know?
If you live in Los Angeles City or New York City or
Oh yeah.
probably any major metropolis and you have two kids and you make 400 grand a year, you're probably like middle class at best.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in the middle. You're in the middle.
In New York City, you're probably broke as fuck, but in other cities, you're probably in the middle.
But it's the left playing class, you know, playing the class war game. I mean, if the right ever became good at class manipulation to try to
Good luck.
oh yeah, it would. I mean, it's always worked. I mean, it worked in
Yeah.
it worked in Russia. I mean, Russia, they used it really
Oh,
well.
they were very good at it.
Yeah.
Like, just take some lessons, righties, and you'll figure this game out. To that point, I've always found this really odd, and maybe you're probably more well read than me. Maybe you can explain it. The I feel like a lot of local politics, especially in the regard of like district attorneys and stuff like that, there are some extraordinarily wealthy lefty people that have really thrown their hat into getting these people elected. And strangely to me, when people say, well, maybe we should, actually try to get some of this money out of politics, the right protects them. They're like, well, you can't do that. You can't tell people how to spend their money. And it's like, you realize you're losing, right? Like, I don't, maybe you can give me some thoughts on that.
Well, yeah. I mean, they can't. What side is going to want to get money out of politics? I mean, you can't do anything unless you're able to get that money. And
I need more context, Mr. Clean, because that doesn't mean anything to me. Is that like medium? Is that the middle class? Like, you got to help me out there. Go ahead. Sorry.
I didn't get that either. Here's the problem with the left and the right is they disagree on a bunch of stuff, but when they agree on something, you can make sure that it's absolutely heinous.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's one of Tom. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing Tom Woods, and but the real difference between the left and the right, if you want to look at a difference, if you're not one of these people who thinks it's all just play, Michael Malice, I think Michael Malice does a really good job of explaining that, yeah, the left and the right there are differences there. There are clearly differences, especially when it comes to politics. But
right,
here's what the left does that the right doesn't. When the left gets power, the only thing they want to do with that power is get more power. And that is what politics is supposed to be about. When the right gets power, they want to do things. They want, let's do some good. I mean, we can do this, we can do that. No, you consolidate all power unto yourself. Mm-hmm. You do it. You get so much power, and the left knows this. I mean, the left has been winning for how many decades now? Mm-hmm. They have all the power. Even when Donald Trump, the first 2 years of his presidency, when they had the White House, when they had the Supreme Court, and they had both
the Senate and the House of Representatives.
What could he get done?
Nothing.
Because the left is in power. The left is in power even when the right is in power.
Yes.
So, and that's because the right doesn't know how to play dirty politics. And it's something I've been trying, like I started writing about the Libertarian Party like 6-7 months ago. You have to consolidate. And I think I wrote an article about it. Yeah, I've released one on Monday saying, okay, so it looks like the Libertarian Party, the Mises Caucus is taking over the Libertarian Party, a very good thing. Now what you have to do is you have to consolidate all power unto yourself, and you have to get rid of any cancerous elements. I mean, when you get rid of cancer, you don't want any cells left. You want to get rid of all of it. So that's your goal. Is okay, not only do we take over, but how do we keep this cancer from popping up again? Well, you get rid of them. You get rid of it. You get rid of all of it. And that's the way power is played. I mean, even if the Libertarian Party doesn't have any power nationally, can't get congressman elected, can't get a senator elected, can't get president elected. I mean, God, it's never going to happen. But they can do stuff locally, or if you put together some kind of, like my thing for the Libertarian Party is if only their message for the next 3 years, 4 years was to attack the press, to attack the corporate media, to make it their mission that we are going to expose that these people don't have a bias, they have an agenda. And
which seems pretty easy to expose.
Yeah. Just go after that. And that is the only message you put out there. It would be much better than pandering to the left like they've been doing, because the left doesn't want anything to do with you. I mean, they don't. I mean, they're not. They see
they don't care, and they don't need you.
Yeah, well, and they see libertarian, and they automatically go into their NPC mode of, oh, it's just a bunch of rich kids and trust fund babies and everything like that. So they don't want anything to
Majority of libertarians I know are pretty poor.
Yeah.
They're not trust fund babies.
Working long hours, and
majority of progressives I know are trust fund babies.
Oh yeah, sure.
It seems like they kind of got their stuff backwards there. I get that. Yeah, I get that. It's a power grab. One of the things that I've become a big fan of this thought process that the Democrats basically, like you said, they run the show and they have for decades. But they'll come up with some nonsense plan like AOC's the Green New Deal or whatever, which has actually almost nothing to do with climate. And it'll be like, hey, we're going to burn the house down. And Republicans go, well, can we just burn down the kitchen? That seems to be what they do. As opposed to, or let's not do any of that shit. Let's do something different. Which leads me to, I want to get your perspective. I feel like I kind of know where your head might be here, but we are about to go into the great gun grab debate. I'm not personally that terrified about it, because I don't think a lot of people I think a lot of people will give them up. I think a lot more will go fucking bite me. But where do you land on what does the Second Amendment mean to you, if it means anything to you at all?
I think it should be repealed.
Think the Second Amendment should be repealed?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to be told that we have the right to bear arms. We have the right to bear arms through nature.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what the Second Amendment's supposed to be, or the entire Constitution was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That you have a natural right to do these things.
It's like Arcaicskidz on Twitter said one time, and I think Michael Malice even quoted him on Joe Rogan, said the Constitution is the conservatives' version of a gun-free zone sign.
That's a fair point.
It has no power. I mean, well, if we just followed it, okay. So,
but we don't.
Who's we?
Right.
I had Legal Man on my podcast, and we were talking about the Constitution, and I said, really, the only way a government works is that when they meet in a room, and the wall is lined with citizens pointing rifles at them.
Right.
That's the only way it works. Yeah. And so the Constitution is supposed to protect the natural right to own weapons. So let's give the government the ability the government's the one who has to enforce that. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Well, especially when you say cops are racist and we're going to take away all your guns and the only people that are going to have guns are cops. It's like, really? Are you fucking stupid?
The leftists are just a caricature. I think right wingers are the one who are supposed to, conservatives are the ones who are supposed to understand the Constitution and who are supposed to understand natural rights. Mm-hmm. And they fail constantly. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, literally like there was a court case. It's a Town of Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, and Gonzalez was a woman who had gotten a restraining order on her ex-husband, and the ex-husband turned up and like took the kids. So she called the police. The police didn't do anything. Called the police again, didn't do anything. Called the police again. Called them at 1:00. Went down there. Went down to the police station. They were not going to do anything, even though she has a restraining order.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that the husband had taken the kids and killed them all. You know, and what that court case is about is it's one of those court cases that in the end said the police have no duty to protect.
Yeah, and they don't.
Just like Warren versus District of Columbia, just like Lozito versus New York City.
Yeah.
The police have no duty to protect. They're not to protect individuals, they're to protect the public. Now find a law.
They're to protect the state.
Yeah, find a law dictionary and look up what public means. Because don't look in your regular dictionary, look in the law dictionary, because we're talking about the law here.
Right.
And so, I mean, that piece of paper, that restraining order, that had as much power in that situation as the Constitution has now to protect people's rights.
Right. And which means fucking none. I constantly see people that are charged with, possession of a firearm, and I'm like, that's their right. I don't know, one of the things that
cops would never take away guns from anybody.
Yeah, right.
When a cop approaches somebody who they know is carrying a gun, they will ask them to relinquish the weapon for their safety.
Yeah.
If a cop,
I've had a cop do that to me, and I went, as soon as you relinquish yours, for my safety.
Yeah. And when a cop arrests somebody, they arrest somebody, say, for a violent crime, even though the person has not been convicted yet, they've only been arrested. Mm-hmm. They take their guns away from them.
Yes.
Well, where does the Second Amendment say you have a right to bear arms, except if you are suspected of committing a crime?
I'll take that a whole lot further. Where does it say it if you're convicted of committing violent crime?
Yeah.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't.
I mean, that's why I get pissed off at conservatives, people like Steven Crowder, that are like, well, unless you're a felon. And I'm like, tell me where that's in the Constitution. You either support what that document says or you don't. And anytime you add a but, you don't. Let's just call a spade. You don't. Fucking liars.
I mean, most people who call themselves constitutional conservatives aren't. No. They don't even. I don't think half of them have read the Constitution. It only takes like 20 minutes to read the whole thing. You could read.
Yeah, and 4 of that is like, what does this weird word mean?
Yeah. You're there with the dictionary, like you're there with like the 1858 dictionary. You're like, what the hell is this?
You're like, I don't know what this means. All right, let's check it out. Yeah, for sure, man. I don't understand this, and I don't understand how. I would make the argument that if it wasn't for conservatives, liberals, or not liberals, but progressives wouldn't be as powerful as they are today. Yeah. Because they continued to convince these people, well, like, look, common sense, right? It's just common sense stuff. And next thing you know, like, we have the biggest prison population on the planet. So, that sounds like a free state to me. I mean, I don't even know how you could argue.
The easiest way to do that is just do it like China does and just kill people. So if somebody gets arrested for weed, just kill them. Yeah, I mean, then you won't have a prison population anymore. I'm surprised. I'm sure there are conservatives who believe
that's because she's a boomer. I think you're probably right. And I'm extraordinarily against the death penalty in all. I don't care. I think it's completely ridiculous. I don't care if you caught him on video murdering a child. I know that's the most horrific thing I can think of in this moment. I'm still against it. Because no matter what, so long as you have it, you will murder someone that doesn't deserve it, that didn't well, I don't know that deserve it's the right term, but I'm adamantly against it. And yet, still, part of me, at least emotionally, is like, well, if you do nasty things to a child, I would want to put you in a wood chipper.
Mm-hmm. Feet first.
Not going to, exactly, feet first. Not going to, but I would want to. I can understand that reaction to it, right? Especially someone that has children.
I'm okay with I'm okay with doing it.
I know, but so that's a difference between a lot of people or whatever. But I don't think you should ever give this state the power to kill.
No,
because they'll abuse it.
I mean, they have the power to sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say that the sentence is correct?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the average drug dealer can get more time than the average rapist. I mean, where has that work?
Because our shit is fucked.
Yeah,
that's how. Because we're gonna crack down on this, and we're gonna because these people that smoke that marijuana, they're gonna go rob your house, which is not fucking true, but they're gonna say that nonsense, and then you get Republicans. I'm sorry, the Uniparty Republicrats go, yeah, we better do something about this so they don't turn into like baby murderers. And I'm like, you people don't understand shit about fuck, because you grow up in your little ivory tower and you went to Yale or wherever the fuck you went, and they're all retarded, and it pisses me off because these fucking idiots don't live in the real world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you saw the interview of Nancy Pelosi being like, "Oh, this is the best ice cream," with her $20,000 freezer or whatever the fuck it was. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is not real people. Like, they actually, that might be real people in San Francisco, except all the people that keep shitting on other people's property
and the streets.
Yeah, everywhere. That's what I'm saying. Like, other people's property. If it's supposed to be community property, and they're just doing that everywhere. And how did San Francisco deal with that? They built an app to tell you where, like, not to step. It's like, what?
Well, I mean, at least they did that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was a college kid that probably did it, and they just like, here's $150. We're going to use this thing now.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't even. There are places I don't want to go. I mean, I was in New York in September, and I mean, I enjoy New York City when I go there, but I mean, it's just not. It wasn't New York City. I mean, Times Square empty on a Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. is not New York City.
Right. Yeah. I've only been to New York City twice, and luckily it was when it was New York City. I have only seen video, but it doesn't look right to me. Like, it's all just gone.
And I don't want to go to San Francisco because I want to go to like the classic San Francisco that I saw in movies when I was growing up. Even like the Dirty Harry movies. You watch it, and you're like, God damn, San Francisco looks really good and everything. It looks like a fun place to visit. Now it's like, yeah, I'm gonna pass. Yeah, I'll
and LA is like really bad. I've got some friends out there, and I mean, there was this great tweet from Gavin Newsom that's like, yeah, like California's leading the way in solving the homelessness crisis. And my friends were like, has he fucking gone outside? Like, they're everywhere. So I guess I want to get your opinion on that. What are some ways we could deal? I mean, other than obviously the government caused this nonsense. No, let's do this. The moratorium on rent is being lifted. And so, I mean, we have to talk about it. I mean, come on, Pete, we have to talk about it. This is, in my opinion, the most scary, damaging thing coming to the economy, worse than inflation, hyperinflation, whatever. So they're lifting their rent moratorium. I think they just did, actually.
Well, I think it's the eviction moratorium.
Okay, well, whatever. It's still the same thing. There's 31 million people that are more than 6 months behind.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. Yeah, there's. I guess if there was a rent moratorium, and I think there was a mortgage moratorium, right?
Yes, there was. Yes.
So, the people who were actually our landlords didn't have to pay, but they also didn't have income coming in that they were expecting to come in. I mean, if they lift that and people start being homeless, I mean, you're having people who have no place to live because, I mean, if they couldn't afford to pay rent for this whole time, I don't think they're going to be able to afford to pay rent now. There's
Mm.
only three outcomes I see from that is there's going to be some kind of bank bailout for mortgages, um,
That's not
being
going to help the people being
just like
evicted.
2008. Of course not. Or, and this is the one that they most like. I think they're going to do the first one, and it's not
Mhm.
going to help. It's not going to help the people, and it didn't help the people in 2008, 2009 when they did it.
Right.
So there's two other things they can do. They can institute UBI and start giving people paychecks so that they can pay
Which
their
a
rent.
bunch of them want to do.
Yeah. Or they can socialize property.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, and this is gonna suck for the 31 million people that are about to lose their house, I kind of hope they pick the first one, just because the long term damage is less.
Yeah. But I
Although
mean, people are still gonna people are gonna be homeless. I
yeah,
mean,
there's no good outcome here.
no, there's not, and that's the crazy thing is
In a way, for the people, the UBI is the better outcome,
actually yes, yeah, and I mean,
but
and I
only
know
temporarily.
sure, and I know that UBI is gonna. I mean, when you consider how much they've printed in the last 15 months, I mean, it's
Yeah,
like it'll just be insane because they just can't give. They're not going to only be able to give UBI to the people who are losing their residence so that they can pay rent. They're going to
they're
have
gonna
to
have
give
to
it to
give it to
everyone.
everyone.
And
Actually, if they would have actually initially, I did the math on this the other day. If they would have started doing that, and it's pulled an Andrew Yang, everyone gets $1,000 a month. If they would have done that, every person above the age of 18 got $1,000 a month. From the start of this thing back in March last year, it would have actually cost less money than all of the stimulus
yeah,
that
yeah,
they've done. They actually literally could have saved money. Now the problem there is that people get used to shit like that. You know what I mean?
of course they do.
So that's a problem. You
And
can't, you know.
look how quickly they got used to wearing something on their face in public.
Yes, yes, that's true.
And
So now you're going to take their money away. They're going to be like, "But I have that's mine." It's like, no, it's not. You're a fucking idiot. But I'm actually really, love him or hate him. Liberty Lockpot has been talking about this from the get go. Is like this or Liberty Lockdown. Sorry, is this thing is a fucking disaster waiting to happen, and it's coming now. We've also seen massive inflation that's happening now. Rather people believe it or not, because CNN tells them no, it's not true. It's like no, it's true. Like wood prices are up 250 to 650% depending on where you are. Steel prices are skyrocketing. Food prices are up. Chicken's up like 14%, something like that. Corn's up 44% over 3 months ago. I don't know how anyone doesn't understand the damage that's going to cause later. So if you look up just stock corn, that's what it's called, stock corn. It's up 44%. That's what we feed the beef. Granted, these are factory farms, right? But that's what they feed their hogs, their cattle, their chickens, whatever. That's it's a big part of that, and that's a problem. As feed costs go up, where do you think the company you think Tyson Foods is going to pay that? Fuck no. That's going to fall down on you, So it to me it worries me. And then I can look at the crypto market and go, look at what's happening in the crypto market. Look at a damn dog coin. You know what I mean? That was a joke. Is now up. It's like 60. Well, I don't know what it's at right now, but yesterday at one point it almost hit 70 cents.
Yeah.
And that's insane to me. I mean, I also, full disclosure, own some because I thought it would be funny. And now I'm like, oh, now it's really funny to me.
Dude, I had like 50,000 at one point when it was under a penny and everything.
Oh.
Yeah. It, it's insane. But yeah, crypto's been fun to watch, monitoring my wallets and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, it's interesting to see which ones take off, which ones don't. But the point is that people are scared, and you can tell. They're trying to park their dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so, something huge is happening right now. Something that is, I mean, the whole government COVID-19 thing has changed the world forever. I mean, we're not going back to anything, even if they did say, well, you'll have all your freedoms back if you carry this passport. Well, that's not going back because the passport didn't exist at that time. So, and they're not going to give anybody their freedoms back. I mean, they may give back a little bit, but the public has proven to them that they will fall for anything, that they're unbelievably scared, that they're just cowards. They're cowards. They're scared to get sick. I mean, when I was talking to Del Bigtree today, he was talking about how you go out and you ask the average person on the street, what the death rate from COVID-19 is, and you'll have people say 20%.
Oh, or higher, or
Yeah.
higher. Democrats actually believe it's like upwards of 30%, that if you get it, you have a 30% chance of dying.
So it's like, I mean, how do we come back from this? I mean, without a mass awakening, or really, I mean, honestly, I think the only thing that can be done right now is federalism. And I think DeSantis, I would, if I could, I'd move to Florida right now.
No, he's going to piss people off. Nice, I like it.
I would move to Florida right now because it's the one place that is, and then you might end up chasing and you might end up chasing states because maybe the next governor will reimpose all sorts of things, because this isn't going away.
No,
I mean,
no, not at all.
This isn't going to go away in certain parts of the country. But I think federalism at this point is probably one of the only things that's going to help. I mean, maybe the governor of Texas is growing some balls or something like that, because I mean
well, Rollerball is starting to get his shit together. I was actually in Texas when Rollerball put in his mask mandate and all that bullshit, and it was I will give him credit. He wasn't as bad as a lot of governors were, even in red states, but it was bad enough, in my opinion. I personally look at it that there were only two governors that handled it well, and that was that chick from South Dakota, Kristi Noem, and DeSantis. Now, that's a sad state of affairs to say that they were. They're like, oh, okay, you don't have to wear a mask or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like that's a weird thing to use as your high point in this situation. But DeSantis, Texas came out and said, we're going to release all mandates, whatever. You guys all just go back to life, do whatever, because all this shit's nonsense and it doesn't actually seem to do any good. And then, of course, but in Texas, it's still, the cities still have their situation. So Austin was like, no, you still have to do these things and this thing and whatever. You know what I mean? Just the state itself said you don't. Well, DeSantis apparently, what was it, yesterday, the day before, told Texas, hold my beer. And he told the cities and states, you're not allowed to enforce any of this shit. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, because I like the decentralized argument, but I also kind of see where you're coming from. That like, I'm kind of feeling like I think we might see a split in this country in the next year. That I don't know if it's good or bad necessarily yet. You know what I mean? But we've done it this way. Let's try something new.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm just here to watch and see what happens. When I look at what DeSantis is doing, I think somebody who is a constitutional conservative who believes that the government is there to protect your rights, the rights of individuals. Well, I mean, it seems that's what DeSantis is doing.
Unless you want pot in Florida.
Well, I mean, I think it's medical there.
It is and they're passing recreational. The problem is that he doesn't want to pass recreational because he's heavily invested in like there's only 22 licenses for medical grow facilities, and he's invested in like 4 of them. So he doesn't want to see that expand. That's bad for him financially. But whatever. He's pretty good on other stuff. I'll give him that. Like he's he's one of the only governors that I've seen that's come out really hard against and I'm going to get called a statist for this and I don't give a fuck, but that he's come out against like Twitter and Facebook and them and the censorship shit. And I know, this is where I'll get called a statist. They're like, oh, they're private companies. No, they're not. They're not.
Michael Rechtenwald proves in his book Google Archipelago that all these companies were started with CIA funding and and military,
and they're still paid for by government in a lot of cases.
Sure.
They, if fucking Amazon or Google or YouTube or any one of these outfits got in major financial trouble, I promise you, they're going to get a giant bailout, just like a car company would.
I think DeSantis would be, and my friends from Timeline Earth, Carr and Bird came up with this, so I'm basically quoting them, invoking them, is that if DeSantis wants to be president of the United States, if that's why he's doing all this, fuck him. But if he wants to be president of Florida, I'll be behind that.
Oh, I'm 100% behind President DeSantis of Florida. 100%. Like, if he wants to be president of the U.S., whatever. I don't want.
Power. I mean,
I don't want the president of the U.S. to exist anymore. Yeah. So we're 50 states.
Even so, that they have no power. I mean, Trump couldn't do anything, and Biden.
And I honestly always believe Trump did want to do stuff, and he just
I think he did. Yeah, but I mean, he did, but I mean, he didn't set himself up to do it.
Right. 100%. But no, if DeSantis is looking at this in a situation of like this is going to get, it's always darkest before the dawn. If it's going to get worse and we're going to be in a weird situation where it's like, okay, it's time to bust this shit up, and he's like, I want to be the president of Florida. Fuck, I'm on board for that. 100%. Awesome. I'm not for rollerball. It would be very fun to watch. I'm not a big fan of rollerball down there in Texas, Abbott. I'm actually more a fan of their attorney general than I am of anyone in their government, because he's the guy that's like, fuck you. Like, the federal government doesn't tell me what to do. And I'm like, I like that. You know what I mean? I live in a very blue state. Not where I live is not blue at all, but the people that run this shit is very blue. Anyway, dude, we are coming up on an hour and a half. This has been like one of my favorite shows I've ever done. I know you got a bunch of stuff you're working on, so I'm gonna leave the floor to you for a few minutes and just tell everyone where to go, what you're doing again, and let them know how to support you.
Sure. Free Man Beyond the Wall podcast. That's my baby. And 500 tomorrow I'll be releasing episode 574. And my Substack, peakanyonas.substack.com, by any means necessary. americaspolicecrisis.com. You can go there and you can donate. We're still taking donations for this. We didn't hit our goal, put it that way, but we can get
male guest, Stacy, male guest.
I mean, if you go to my website, freemanbeyondthewall.com, you go to the store /store, you can support me monthly, you can support me yearly. I have my own payment system on there in case Patreon does the inevitable,
which will happen.
Yeah, I do still have a Patreon. You just look up my name or freemanbeyondthewall.com, subscribe to Substack. You can actually donate. I have a subscription there, and yeah, I mean, I just try to keep as busy as possible, try to put out the message as much as possible. I mean, I've had people tell me that I've changed their mind on social media just from my social media posts. Said that they were a minarchist, they became an anarchist, or they were a conservative and they became a libertarian, and things like
that. Right on, man.
Right on. It's awesome. It's awesome to hear. But there's still so much work to do. And I do want to give a shout out to my friends in Florida, in the Mises Caucus down there. Those guys do great work, and they are fighting to make the Libertarian Party at least libertarian again.
Right on, man. This has been a huge amount of fun for me. I was really excited to have you on, and I appreciate you doing it. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and those of you that are going to watch it afterwards, I've got Libertarian Institute and Pete's Twitter down in the description. You guys hit him up, follow him, go on Amazon Prime and check out that documentary. It's absolutely amazing. Y'all have a good one. Peace.